Good evening, Nigeria. Good people, great nation. E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C were two anti-corruption bodies formed by an act of parliament under the administration of Chief O.S.R.C. These bodies were primarily charged to fight corruption, which had then become a dominant culture in our society before democracy got its breath in the country. The nation was bedeviled with what was known as settlement culture, kickback, 419, e-fraud, Yahoo Yahoo or Yahoo Extra, whatever you want to call it, bank fraud, and international conspiracy with other criminals to defraud other people. These criminal activities confined Nigeria into the black book of civilized nations of the world. The concerted effort of well-meaning Nigerians to tackle this great monster led to the establishment of these anti-corruption bodies. At the inception of the E.F.C.C, Malam Nuhu Ribadu was appointed as the chairman, while the I.C.P.C was headed by retired Justice Mustafa Akambi. Without doubt, these bodies were noticed for their various performances in tackling corruption in the land. One germane question being asked by Nigerians then was, how independent were they to perform their duties? Opinions were divided in this regard. However, the federal government felt that these bodies were performing the same functions and along with other agencies. For this reason, an O.S.R.C committee was put in place to streamline all these agencies, that is, their performances and duties. But surprisingly, the committee recommended that both anti-corruption outfits be scrapped and have their duties transferred to the Nigerian Police. Those who were firmly opposed to the E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C, including the Association of Ex-Governors, applauded the recommendation as a welcome development. Perhaps they still want to cover their past. Other Nigerians cried foul, asking why the police should be asked to assimilate these two bodies. Nigeria is at crossroads. The world is watching, and with keen interest too. Can the Nigerian police cope with the heavy burdens of tackling corruption? It should be noted that there was a time the F.R.S.C, that is, the Federal Road Safety Commission, was merged with the Nigerian police. What was the outcome? Is the Nigerian police force above board when it comes to the issue of corruption? The Tafawa Balogun saga is always a point of reference. The police force that is still struggling with Boko Haram, kidnapping, and police pension fund scam is now being asked to tackle corruption. Some Nigerians are even saying, instead of the Nigerian police, these bodies should be handed over to the British police to manage, considering the cases of the likes of Ibori, Dariye, Alame, to mention but a few. The main question for tonight then is, if the E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C are scrapped and their duties transferred to the Nigerian police, will it achieve the desired results? Good evening once again. I am Banjo Abitogun. On the panel with me tonight, I have, to my far right there, Barrister Victor Olatoyegun. Barrister Victor Olatoyegun is a legal practitioner based here in Akure. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Good evening, viewers.
I also have Mr. Oladimeji Abitogun. Mr. Oladimeji Abitogun is a journalist. In fact, he is the publisher, editor-in-chief of the US-based sharpagenews.com. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Good to be here.
To his left is Mr. Jeff Abidoye. Mr. Abidoye is a consultant on leadership. He's also the founder and national president, Leadership Without Borders. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much for the opportunity again.
And to my immediate right, you have the one and only Mr. Kolawole Johnson. Mr. Kolawole Johnson is a PR consultant. He's also the state coordinator, Ondo State coordinator for the civil society organization called Enough is Enough. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, viewers.
And straight to business. Let's go to the lawyer in the house first. Barrister Olatoyegun, what are the constitutional duties and roles of the I.C.P.C and E.F.C.C?
As you have said, their roles have to do with maintenance of law and order. And in doing this, they are specialized in enforcing laws bordering on corruption. So to say, they are anti-corruption agencies. So the primary duties of this body are to maintain laws and order. And that is why many people think that maintenance of law and order in the Constitution is the primary responsibility of the police force, while creating other bodies. And we will see later that they are children of expediencies. When you look at the Nigeria Police, you see it is a precursor to a lot of other organizations, like the immigration, the Nigerian Railway Police, the prisons service. Even the present SSS came about, was a branch in the Nigerian Police, E department, which was carved out in 1976 as a Nigerian security organization. Again, balkanized and made to become SSS, NIA, and DIA. And you still see the same trend happening in the case of ICPC, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Corruption Act of 2000. And again, the E.F.C.C, Economic and Financial Crime Commission. So essentially, they are policing organizations. But because of the inefficiencies of the Nigeria Police, that is why they are made to specialize in certain areas. And again, the narcotic enforcement agency, the Nigerian NDLEA, Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, is another child of expedience. So when you look at it, they are maintaining law and order in order to make the society efficient and corrupt-free.
Okay. Thank you so much, Barrister. Having listened to Barrister Olatoyegun, I'll come to Mr. Abitogun now. Where do you think these bodies got it wrong in their duties so far?
The point of deviation, the point at which the E.F.C.C deviated had to be, number one, the seeming instability in the way Nuhu Ribadu was removed. When he was removed, questions were asked as to the kind of vested interest that the incumbent administration of the late President Yar'Adua had in removing him and then replacing him with Farida Waziri. Then you look at the I.C.P.C. I was lucky to be the first journalist to sit the retired Court of Appeal President, Mustafa Akombi, down for an interview in Abuja. And in the course of that interview, I got a close-up on the kind of person that was that was going to lead I.C.P.C. He told me then that if somebody was arrested, if somebody was nabbed as a public official for stealing or misappropriating public funds, and then people sent representations to say, oh, please, this man is our man, he's a son of the soil, let him go. He said, coming to him to even enter a plea, questionable plea as such, would be enough ground to get the person prosecuted and jailed. Now, the fact that these people couldn't follow through what they had intended, their mission statement, the fact that they couldn't follow it through with determination, not powering or digging to political interest or any political leadership at any point, was a strong betrayal of trust against the Nigerians and the constitution of the land and the Act of Parliament, that the different acts of Parliament that brought these two bodies into being. Be that as it may, sir, I would say that Nigerians were totally convinced that the issue of fraud and corruption had become one dangerous cancer that must be clinically tackled. But to the extent that these people were respecters of persons, they were not using all the enablements provided by the laws of the land in terms of rule of law. It became rule of man. For example, how did Tinubu end up not being prosecuted today, even in the face of the mounting number of allegations hanging on his neck? How did Alamisco, the man you call Alamis, how did he walk away free? How was Ibori's shameful, what's it called, exoneration at the Court of Appeal in Asaba? How was it secured? All these things, they raise questions as to the credibility. In fact, the very survival of this country, let me tell you, coming to Nigeria to do business as an international person comes with additional cost. And when people cannot be brought to book in the face of obvious, overwhelming evidence of corrupt enrichment, you ask a governor how much is your salary, which we all know. You ask the president of the nation, how much do you earn every month? And then you see them declaring fake assets, false assets. And if FCC is so tamed and so toothless, so much so that it doesn't even bite, it would never conclude any prosecution to a logical conclusion. And then we begin to wonder where they missed it. They missed it through and through right from the beginning, because there was a failure of will.
Okay, then, thank you so much. Mr. Abidoye, do you agree with some of the things he has said? And if not, do you agree that E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C should be scrapped at all?
Well, thank you so much. Well, as a matter of fact, we have to look at how E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C came into existence. Both the two agencies are child of circumstance. They are child of necessity. And it's often said that necessity is always the mother of invention. We must give kudos to the former president, the person of Olusegun Obasanjo, for deeming it necessary and worthwhile creating those two agencies, because he sent a bill to the National Assembly before it was passed and they were put in place. And as a matter of fact, I vividly recollect at the inception when E.F.C.C was put in place, AIG, DIG, all of them were jostling to become the chairman of that agency at that time. And that was the point where it appears even the Nuhu Ribadu, because Obasanjo has to go into archives to check. At the point he was looking for a firebrand, a fearless, a courageous, a doggedly determined young, vibrant person that can at least chart a course and then be able to project, the mandate and the set objective for the agency. And I think it was even at that point that Nuhu Ribadu started having problem, which is Oga, who incidentally was the IG at that time. I mean, Tafa Balogun, that you raised at the point of your commentary. Tafa Balogun was thinking, he was recommending, another person, AIG and all that. And eventually when the guy came in there, Tafa Balogun was saying he should be reporting to him. And Nuhu Ribadu said, well, with due respect, this agency was an independent agency. It's not under IG or under police. I'm, responsible and accountable to the presidency. And that was it. And whether we like it or not, like my brother said, by your question, how did they got it wrong? When Nuhu Ribadu, in fairness to him, the guy was not, was not respecter of any person at that time, no matter how highly placed you are. I vividly recollect, even when his boss, the IG was found wanting. The E.F.C.C, they were not looking at the IG as the IG at that time. They were looking at Tafa Balogun as a corrupt person that had been found wanting, and he was treated in that manner. And we could see from record, the thing is, we forget things in a hurry. Okay? We must always remember how we started. As a matter of fact, the E.F.C.C hit the ground on in. They were doing fantastically well and all that, but a lot of our big boys in the society who think they must be above the law started thinking that the guy was stepping on some big toes and all that. And that was how the conspiracy started. And they prayed that Obasanjo should go out after 8 years. And immediately he went out. The likes of Iboris of this world and big boys, governors and all that, team up, conspired, and they said, this guy must go at all costs. And we all see how the guy was disgraced. At the point they declared him wanted, he must be arrested and all this and all that. They dehumanized him, they derobe him, they derank him, they did everything humanly possible. The guy had to run out of, for his life, went away. But at the inception of this other administration, when they came, the guy was reinstated back. He was restored. He was, his rank was restored. He was, retired and all that. The whole thing has become history. And the woman who took over from her never had the kind of boldness, the courage, and the firebrand, to do the job. And we could see that the little time she was there. I personally went to E.F.C.C because by objective, by goal, and by mandate and the commission of E.F.C.C, in line with the act establishing it, E.F.C.C was to, they were to tackle corruption from 3 major dimensions. I discussed it I submitted a proposal with a view to see how I can collaborate with them as a consultant in leadership. Their mandate and their commission is to tackle corruption from 3 major dimensions. The first is to prevent corruption. That is nipping the bud, and all that, through periodic, consistent, training for their personnel and all that. The second one is to investigate when it's been established that so person or institution has been engaged in the issue of corruption. And the third leg to their mandate and their commission is to proactively, prosecute offenders that are found wanting. But when you look at it, going by my discussion with some of the team of E.F.C.C in Abuja, and I said, look, you guys, in fairness to you, with little resources, with the little support you are getting and all that, you've done well in the area of, prosecution. You've done well in the area of investigation. But when you look at prevention, you have not done anything at all as far as I'm concerned. Because you are going after present leaders, who are stealing money, who are amassing wealth and all this and that. Some of them are using their influence here and there to tackle you, to fight back, and all that and all that. I said, when you even, let's assume you even jail all of them that are corrupt in this country today. How about the mindset? How about the mentality? How about the perception? How about the attitude of the younger generation that I belong? And when you check it out, talking about corruption now, because that is your major commission, is to tackle corruption. The younger generation now are more corrupt in terms of their perception and their attitude. Because an undergraduate now want to ride the best car, and that's why you see all of them going to Yahoo and all this and all that. You see somebody who joined the civil service now, who has not spent 3 years, he wants to ride a car that a director cannot ride. There's corruption all over the places. That for you to tackle this issue, holistically, you have to begin to look at it, with a view to get collaborators that will be able to help and all this and that. So to cut those stories short, in fairness, at the inception, at the initial, E.F.C.C was doing very well. And at a point, we got it wrong. But as a matter of fact, if you asked me, you want me to comment, as a matter of fact, the idea of, the merger of I.C.P.C, E.F.C.C, and all, I equally went to I.C.P.C too. I had a discussion with the chairman there at that time too. Okay, the idea of merging the two of them does not arise at all. There's no need for it. Yet they might not be living up to expectation. Yet they might not, be hitting the set goal and objective. We might not be where we think we ought to be by way of corruption fighting in this country, but we are no more where we used to be. Some personality who think they are above the law have been tried. Some are equally being tried, and I hope.
In short, all you're saying is that they should not be scrapped.
They should not, because even the suggestion, I begin to be skeptical. I begin to doubt the submission of Steve Oransoye, who was the head of service for years and who was retired. I begin to see invisible finger as far as that report is concerned. For anybody at this critical time to now be suggesting that E.F.C.C, I.C.P.C should be scrapped and should be given back to police. Which police are we talking about? Okay. The police that has lost relevance, and all that and all that?
We'll come to that, Mr. Abitogun. Thank you so much. Mr. Kolawole Johnson,
Yes,
coming to scrapping of E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C and transferring the duties to the Nigerian police, is Nigeria police force well equipped within the Nigerian context to fight corruption?
Well, I don't think you need hammer tank to fight corruption. I don't think you need AK-47 to fight corruption. So, are they well equipped? To a very large extent.
Mentally, intellectually,
mind you,
in terms of strategy.
Mind you, the people you see in the E.F.C.C and the I.C.P.C, most of those who are into the operations of the place were seconded from the Nigerian police.
Yeah.
Like the very first chairman, Nuhu Ribadu, was brought from the Nigerian police. 1. 2, the Nigerian police has a special unit called the SFU, special for the whatever unit. So I think they already have a unit that is working on criminal investigation, on fraud. Taking E.F.C.C out was to ensure that we have a vibrant system that can tackle corruption. And I hope you know that if we can successfully tackle corruption in this country, we'll have enough money to run virtually every sector that we want to run properly. As long as we know that the Nigerian police has a unit that is dedicated to fighting fraud, E.F.C.C is doing a job that is kind of different by commission from what the SFU is doing. Now, what is the basis for scrapping of this agency? Let's look at that. Now, they were talking of how to reduce government expenses on several wages and everything that is consuming the federal government money. And they came up with that report to scrap federal government agencies. Now, E.F.C.C and I.C.P.C were just among. They were not the only agencies that were recommended to be sacked. Yeah. Now, what are we going to say? Any report you see in this country, even when you have a report done, it is not necessary, it is not important, or it's not a compulsion that you must take everything hook, line, and sink. That is what they have recommended. The federal government has not come out with what they are trying to do. And I'm sure that by the time they look at that report, they will be able to say, okay, some agencies can go, some can stay. If you bring together I.C.P.C., E.F.C.C. together under a single name or a single place, I don't think it's bad. If that will ensure that some money that are being spent are reduced. Mind you, a larger percentage of the money that is being spent in E.F.C.C. is coming from the foreign donors, not even through the E.F.C.C. The FG. So we